Hello from not so sunny Los Angeles, California. I'm here with my family, had a few minutes to break out, and I wanted to put together a video I thought would be useful to those in the recovery auditing space on what is real-time recovery auditing. This is a term that has become more and more common in really the last 3 to 5 years. If you are at a recovery audit consulting firm, or you are at a large organization that supports a recovery audit program, you've probably heard this phrase. I think it's used for a lot of different purposes, what real-time recovery auditing is. The way I like to use the term is actually to step away from it and to use the term post-payment auditing or prepayment auditing. In my view, a real-time recovery audit is when we're looking at a pre-transaction, meaning a prepayment review prior to the payment going out to the vendor. A post-pay, which is a more traditional recovery audit, is, again, post-payment. It's after the payment's taken place. So the way that the accounts payable, the contract compliance recovery auditing industry, and even to some extent the construction recovery audit industry built up was historical, right? So if we're sitting in 2025 and we're doing a recovery audit, we're probably looking at 2024, maybe even 2023 and 2022, well after the point where the transaction's taken place, right? The payment's already out to the vendor. I think the appropriate way to use the term real-time recovery auditing is prepayment. It's when the invoice is first presented, when the pay application, if we're talking about construction, is first presented. That's the point we're doing the audit work, right? So invoice is received, it's reviewed in real time, and prior to the payment being issued, any issues with the invoice, they billed for per diem when they shouldn't have. They didn't apply the correct rate. They didn't provide the correct promotion. They didn't deal with that. Actually takes place prior to the payment occurring. Now, sometimes when you do a real-time audit, a prepay audit, you're able to actually have the invoice rewritten or the pay application rewritten prior to payment. Sometimes you agree prior to the payment, we're going to have a credit on the following invoice or the following pay application. Prepayment recovery audits are much more common in spaces where we have monthly invoices as opposed to invoices that are happening all the time. So think construction, think fleet, think legal services, think sometimes renovations. So in those spaces, those invoices are coming somewhat regularly, monthly. They're large invoices, and they can be reviewed and within the matter of 5 to 6 days can have feedback shared with the vendor and alignment met prior to the payment taking place. Some of the benefits of real-time recovery auditing are higher realization of issues that are found because you still have the money, you haven't paid it out. I think more importantly is the relationship benefit of it, which is if we see issues early on in a relationship, let's say that I sign on a new construction vendor or a new legal vendor, and on the first invoice or pay application I'm reviewing, I start to see issues. Hey, they're billing for they're billing for some licenses and fees that are across all of their clients, but I'm getting the whole brunt of it, right? I can raise that topic right off the bat with my vendor, have a discussion, resolve it on that first invoice, and then it's very, very unlikely once we've had that conversation, it'll continue to happen. So better for relationships. It's better to fix something earlier than it is to fix it later. The downsides to real-time auditing obviously become availability. We don't want to slow down the process of paying invoices, right? We don't want vendors to be have delays in their payment terms, and they're not going to be okay with having delays in their payment terms. So a downside, or I don't say a downside, a challenge of real-time recovery auditing is how do we actually attack these things in a way so that it doesn't slow down the payment process at all, because that's not acceptable. Vendors need to be paid for what they do. They need, they're providing services, they're providing product to your company, they need to be able to be paid. So I think, that like I said, there are spaces that it makes sense to kind of dip your toe. If you're an organization considering real-time recovery auditing, there are spaces that it makes sense to dip your toe in initially. I've cited a few of those. Feel free to reach out to me if you'd like to know more. That's my recommendation. If you are considering moving to a more real-time audit, approach, and firms talking to you, your internal resources are wanting to do it, I think it's always the best practice to start that process gradually. Find some areas where there's going to be a high level of buy-in in your organization. There's going to be a regular cadence of invoices that is probably closer to monthly than 5 or 6 or 7 invoices a week, and make sure you have strong controls and systems set up around how that's going to operate. Make sure your vendor is aware of this process, that they're tied in this real time or prepay auditing. That way you'll have success early on, and then as you look to expand the process of performing your audit work at the point of the transaction prior to payment taking place, you'll have more organizational buy-in. So again, thanks everyone for getting this far in the video. Hope you're gearing up to have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.